So hello everybody, my name is Cameron Timmons and I'm going to be doing a presentation on antibiotic stewardship. So basically what that means is I'm going to be talking about antibiotics and there's stuff like that about this presentation. So thank you all guys for coming. So let's go ahead and get started, okay? Okay, some objectives that we're going to talk about today is the different types of organisms that are present throughout in our ecosystems and stuff like that. We're also going to talk about avoiding sickness, so ways to avoid these organisms and stuff like that also. And then if you do get a sickness, we're also going to talk about antibiotics and their specific use and information about antibiotics, just a brief overview of those. And we're also going to talk about the appropriate use of antibiotics, which is also important whenever dealing with antibiotic resistance, which is the next thing we're going to also talk about. And concluded, we're going to also talk about how you can help with antibiotic resistance and how to prevent those situations. Alright, so we have some different types of organisms. Bacteria is a single-celled organism. It lives inside and outside of the human body. And you have good versus bad bacteria. For example, our bodies produce good bacteria, which helps our body with digestion and other things like that. But also bad bacteria can also get in your system as well and cause infections. And so viruses, on the other hand, are another type of organism. They're a lot smaller than bacteria. They also require a host living cell. And they cannot live outside of the cell body. So they must invade other cells to replicate and to spread. And so here's some examples of some disease-causing microbes. Strep throat is caused by bacteria, group A Streptococcus. Food poisoning, is caused by salmonella, which is also a bacteria. And while the common cold is a virus, it's the cause of the rhinovirus. The flu is also a virus, so that's one of the virus organisms. And athlete's foot is also a fungus, so that'll be treated with a whole other type of medication. And then malaria is a parasite, which would also require a whole new medication. So let's move on and talk about how to avoid sickness or how to avoid these bad bacteria and bad viruses. So, the number one thing would be hand hygiene. So it's also, everyone knows it's important to wash your hands before, during, and after preparing food. It's all, if you go to plan on cooking chicken, you want to wash your hands before you touch the chicken. And then, if you switch to go to cook the broccoli or whatever, you would wash your hands between going back and forth. And even after preparing the food, you want to wash your hands. So after you get done with that, you also want to wash your hands before you eat food. This is good hygiene practice, going to restaurants. Just make sure you wash your hands just to wash off any kind of bacteria. Alright, and you also want to wash your hands before and after caring for anyone who's sick. So, you go take care of your grandmother, anything like that, go see anybody in the hospital. It's also important to wash your hands on the way in and on the way out also. Alright, after using the toilet, this one's pretty self-explanatory. Or actually, before and after treating the cut or wound. So every time you would, you're out in the yard and you scrape yourself, anything like that, you would want to wash your hands and then treat the wound and wash your hands after. And after using the toilet, like I said, it's pretty much self-explanatory. After you get done using the restroom, it's important to wash your hands to wash off any bacteria that you've either collected from using the restroom and also actually touching the equipment in the restroom. Changing a diaper or cleaning up after a child has used the toilet is also important. You just want to wash off any of the bad bacteria that you may have collected from doing that. After blowing your nose, coughing or sneezing is another example of when to perform proper hand hygiene. So you want to make sure after you blow your nose inside that Kleenex or whatever, you can also cover your nose and cover your mouth whenever you're sneezing. You want to dispose of that Kleenex properly. After touching an animal feed or animal waste, this is important for down here especially because a lot of people have animals. And every time you would feed the dogs, feed the cats, anything like that, it's important to wash your hands after dealing with any kind of animal food. And animal waste, just wash your hands after you pick up after animals. After handling pet food is also important. So, go to your dog a treat, it's also important to wash your hands. Touching garbage is also pretty much self-explanatory. Just the garbage cans tend to harbor bacteria and build up levels on those. So it's important to wash your hands after that. So some ways to avoid sickness directly by washing your hands. You can fight germs by washing your hands. The first step would be to wet your hands. Make sure you wash and get between your fingers, under your nails, and on tops of your hands. Make sure you get your hands nice and wet. And then 2 is apply the soap. You want to apply about a dime to a quarter size amount of soap. And most soaps tend to be antimicrobial. We'll get to that in a second. The next step will be to lather and scrub for 20 seconds. What that means would you just put the soap in your hands and underneath the water. You would rub your hands together, washing off any kind of bacteria, anything like that will be built up. And then this important step number 4 is to rinse the bacteria off. So during this process, this is the actual washing of your hands. So it actually washes away all the bad bacteria and clears it out. And then you want to grab a paper towel, whatever you're using, and turn off the tap with using that paper towel. And then you want to dry your hands after. So that's just some ways to wash your hands. And it's also important, for about 20 seconds, I said a good rule of that is happy birthday, saying happy birthday twice. Alright, so what are antibiotics? Antibiotics are also antimicrobials, which is another word for them. They fight infection, which are caused by bacteria in humans and animals. So, you can give antibiotics to both humans and animals. And what they do is they kill or make it difficult for the affected cells to grow and multiply. So what that means is that antibiotics, they go in and they would kill bad bacteria, which is their goal, and make it difficult for the cells that are actually already infected to. The antibiotics can go through and kill the bad bacteria, affected cells, but they have no effect on viral infections, like we were talking about earlier. So now we're going to talk about different uses of antibiotics and when they would be appropriate. So we should use antibiotics for bacterial infections. Pneumonia is a bacterial. Whooping cough, the things that babies get when they're really young. Urinary tract infections can be used with antibiotics, and also strep throat. Antivirals should be used for these medicines, so it's important to not use antibiotics for these types of things. Colds, flu, most sore throats, most coughs and bronchitis, and chest colds, and many sinus infections and many ear infections. And here's just another little slide about when it would be appropriate to use each kind. So, strep throat uses bacteria, so you would treat that with antibiotics. Whooping cough, bacteria, so you would use antibiotics. Urinary tract, biotics. Sinus infection, it just depends on its bacterial or viral nature. And middle ear infections is the same way. Bronchitis and chest colds, those are typically viral, so there would be no antibiotics would be used for that. Common cold, runny nose, no. Sore throat, except strep, would not require antibiotics. And flu is viral, so it would be antiviral medication. So when can antibiotics cause more harm than good? They increase the risk of developing antibiotic-resistant infections. So what this means is that, we're going to actually get into this later. They increase the risk of developing antibiotic-resistant infections. So these antibiotics also can kill healthy bacteria in the gut and can cause harmful bacteria to grow in its place, like C. diff. So, for example, C. diff is a bad bacteria that comes in through your intestines. So what it can actually do is the C. diff will actually be infected throughout your intestines versus the good bacteria, which is used for digestion. And antibiotics can cause 1 out of 5 ER visits for adverse side effects. They're also the leading cause, most common cause of department visits for adverse effects in children under the age of 18. So what is antibiotic stewardship, like I was talking about earlier? So using antibiotics appropriately and safely, but only when they're needed to treat disease, and to choose the right antibiotics and administer them in the right way in every case. So what this means is that choosing antibiotics for the right things that will require them, like any kind of infection we were talking about earlier, and their safe usage, as the doctor prescribes. and to administer them in every case the right way. So what is antibiotic resistance which can occur? Antibiotic resistance is the ability of bacteria to resist the effects of antibiotics. So what it means is that your bacteria adapts to reduce the effects of drugs, chemicals, or other agents to cure or prevent infections. And bacteria can survive and continue to multiply and cause more harm. So what this means is also, what it does is the antibiotics that you take can affect the good bacteria and also lower your ability to fight off infections later. So how does this develop? The use of antibiotics is the single most important factor leading to antibiotic resistance around the world. Antibiotics are also among the most commonly prescribed drugs used in human medicine and can be life-saving drugs. But at the same time, they can increase your risk of antibiotic resistance. And up to 50% of the time, antibiotics are unnecessarily prescribed, whether they be accidentally prescribed for viral or misdiagnosed for viral infections or anything like that. And the use of antibiotics in people and in food and animals, salmonella is treated with antibiotics, and also as Campylobacter, those are also treated with antibiotics. And it's also important to manage and treat infections and to not promote growth, which is what they do, which is what antibiotics do. So we're now going to look at a little diagram about how this actually happens. So, everyone is covered with lots of germs. A few are drug resistant. And what the antibiotics do, if you get an infection, like we were talking about earlier, the antibiotics kill the bacteria causing illness, as the good bacteria protecting the body from infection. So the actual taking antibiotics inappropriately would be to kill the to kill the good bacteria, which will lead to drug-resistant bacteria to be allowed to grow and take over, and basically run the show pretty much. And then, so the last little step is there is some bacteria can become drug-resistant and then spread over to other, and spread and multiply. Okay, so why is this important? Why does this matter? Okay, antibiotic resistance can easily easily cause illnesses that are once easily treatable with antibiotics and more dangerous infections. Antibiotic-resistant bacteria can spread from person to person, and in turn can threaten the entire community and just be widespread. Antibiotic resistance and bacteria are often more difficult to kill and more expensive to treat because they require more aggressive treatment and anything like that. And they can even lead to disability and even death. So an estimated number of illnesses and deaths caused annually by antibiotic resistance is at least 2,049,442 illness, and eventually could lead to 23,000 deaths. So how can you protect yourself? Okay. It's important to ask your healthcare provider if there are any options to try before using antibiotics. Maybe taking more vitamins. Maybe just using antibiotics as a last resort. And it's also important to take your prescribed antibiotic exactly as your healthcare provider prescribes. If it says on the bottle how to take it, it's really important to follow those rules and follow those guidelines. It's also important to get vaccinated against diseases that may require antibiotic therapy to treat. If things can be easily prevented, it always makes sense to eliminate those problems. So that's what we're talking about with hand hygiene. Every time you use a restroom, it's important to wash your hands and sort of work the same way as vaccinations do. It's also important to never skip a dose or quit taking antibiotics early. That's why sometimes they give them to you 2 pills a day, or they progress, to taper off. What they do is they want you to take the complete dose of antibiotics and completely go through the entire treatment time recommended for that. Also, it's important to never take antibiotics for viral infections. So we're talking about the cold and flu, probably the main two down in this area. So never take antibiotics for viral infections. Never pressure the healthcare provider to prescribe antibiotic therapy. So it's important if you go to the doctor, make sure you don't demand to take antibiotics because you believe that you think antibiotics are what you need. Because like we said earlier, 50% are prescribed inappropriately. And it's also never it's important to never save antibiotics for future use. So what that means is to never, hoard antibiotics, because most of the time they wouldn't even be treated in your case anyway, and more than likely they would be expired by the time they were even able to use. It's also important to never take antibiotics that are prescribed to someone else. So it's never a good idea to save other people's medicines and take them as you think you need to. So next time you get sick, remember, it's important to only take antibiotics for bacterial infections, since they can put you at risk for harmful side effects and antibiotic-resistant infections. All right. And that concludes my presentation. Here's some references for us. A lot of the information I got was from the CDC website, and also got the little diagram we got from Evan Hospital. And I appreciate you guys coming, and thank you so much.